Welcome to the SFCC Library video tutorial on Persuasive Research online. In this video, we're going to be talking about how you can find information related to different points of view on an issue using library databases, the free web, and providing you some research tips. To begin with, the library subscribes to a couple of different databases that focus on pro-con topics. These are Opposing Viewpoints, Global Issues, and CQ Researcher. As with all library databases, because they cost lots of money, you need to access them through the SFCC Library Database page. Once you're on the library database page, you can scroll to the name of the database that you would like to look at. I'm going to click on O for Opposing Viewpoints. When you come to the database page, it will ask you to log in, and you're going to use your Bigfoot email address and password to log in. If you're not sure what they are, go back to the database page and you'll see a reminder in the top left-hand corner. So this is Opposing Viewpoints. You can type in your issue right here in the search box, or what I think is even better is to use the Browse Issues button here. This will provide you a list of topics that they have already compiled information on. I'm going to pretend that my example is that I wish high school would start later in the day. So school start times is kind of what my issue is. I'm going to look down at S and say, oh, they have one called School Start Times. You'll see they give me sort of an introduction and overview of my topic. I would click Read More to read the whole item. And below they provide me academic journal articles, images, magazines, viewpoints. Viewpoints is where you're going to have articles that are specifically taking a particular stance or a particular perspective on an issue. Video, statistics, reference, audio, all sorts of things. We do have another video on how to use Opposing Viewpoints more in depth, but just to quickly show you something, let's say I wanted to look at Viewpoints. I would click there. Here are the 4 articles that they are recommending to me. If I decided that I wanted to use one of them, I would click on the title. And there's the full text. And at the very bottom, they do provide me a source citation. So if you're using MLA, or click to choose APA. Global Issues is very much like Opposing Viewpoints. It's just that their issues are more global in context, so they may not be your traditional pro-con, but they still contain viewpoint essays. So I do recommend that if you have an issue that is pertinent to the entire world at some point, check out Global Issues. CQ Researcher is another pro-con database that you can use. Here's what CQ Researcher looks like. It provides you in-depth reports on today's issues. Once again, you can search using the search box in the top right-hand corner, or you can browse topics. So for instance, my topic of school start times might be related to education. I don't know if school start times is really in here, but I may be interested in researching a little bit more about online education, and I can open up there and they will give me some additional drop-down reports that I can find. Let's say, for instance, I'm looking at college costs. Here we go. Once again, they're going to give me an overview. They're giving me related topics. Use the table of contents on the left. So if I want to know what the pro-con sides of this are, here we go. They've broken that down for me. And once again, if I need to cite this, there is a citation button that I can use. And they'll say, oh, here's APA, here's MLA, etc. In addition to the library databases, there are some places that you can find very good content or very useful content for looking for perspectives on the free web. Procon.org and Room for Debate are 2 websites that are kind of similar to Opposing Viewpoints and CQ Researcher in that they will take an issue and they will provide you different perspectives on that issue. This is the Procon website. Once again, you can scroll down here and they've sort of listed the most popular topics or things by categories, or you can look at their topics A through Z. So once again, you can choose whatever it is that you are interested in. If it is paying college athletes, you can click on that. And then you'll see that they're going to give you an overview, pro-con arguments, discussion questions. So it's a very helpful website for you. Room for Debate is a subsection or a collection within the New York Times where they provide opinions on various topics. So once again, if you kind of just look around, browse around it a little bit, you can find some interesting topics that they are talking about. Even on the right, they have some discussion topics here. So if you want, you can play around with that. Here's the most talked about debates of 2016. And they'll say, can a Supreme Court justice denounce a candidate? That was a topic that they had looked at. And you'll see here that they have a couple of different articles that you can look at that would be related to that. Another good thing to use the free web for is to find content related to advocacy groups or professional organizations, because depending on your issue, you may have groups that are advocating or fighting for your particular stance, or even if they're fighting against that particular stance, it's always good to know both sides of an argument. The same with professional organizations. Depending on what the issue is that you're looking at, there may be professional organizations that have a particular stance on that issue, and once again, we'll be providing some very good resources related to that. If I was going to look for an advocacy group, I could type into Google something like school start times and then advocacy. And you'll see here, we start with Start School Later, a grassroots organization committed to healthy school start times. School start times, the American Academy of Sleep Medicine. So that's an example of a professional organization that apparently has done some research that might influence a particular topic. And so that's just an easy way that you can identify different advocacy or professional organization groups using Google. One thing to remember is that you still need to evaluate that the websites that you are using are credible resources. So the resources that I just showed you already basically compile your different viewpoints pretty easily on their websites or in their database. The research tip that I want to give you is that if you're looking at news items, and those might be news items that you're watching on TV or on YouTube, or it could be an article that you see in a magazine or a newspaper, there are some key terms that you can look for that will help you focus in on content that is going to have a particular point of view. And that means using terminology like opinion or op-ed, editorial, commentary, letter to the editor. These are specific components of oftentimes what we would associate with a newspaper, but also on news programs and in magazines. What you call the sections where either journalists or members of the public will provide their opinions on different topics. And there are ways that you can use these words in your Google search or in your database searching to really hone in on that content. So here's an example of how you can do that using a library database like ProQuest. ProQuest is a database that provides you access to full text magazine, journal articles, trade journals, newspapers. And what's nice about ProQuest is that there are a lot of filtering options that you can do to really help you hone in on stuff. So if I'm looking at school start times, but once again, I really would like to focus on someone's opinion about that, I'm going to go down to where it says document type. And as I scroll down here, I will see that I have examples like commentary. That was one of the research tips. Continuing down, editorial. I can even check editorial, cartoon, or comic. That could be interesting. Once again, continuing down, letter to the editor. And I will just see if they have something that says opinion. I'm not seeing that. So right now, I've asked them to search just for document types that fall into those categories. And here you'll start to notice in the newspaper article, schools issue, later high school start times tried, here's an editorial item. So once again, they've narrowed it down to articles that are specifically designated as being a commentary or a letter to the editor or an editorial. You can do the same thing using Google. And so here I've given you an example of Google News. So Google has a specialty search engine called Google News. And in this instance, I would probably just add my word opinion to my search. So start school, or I should say school start times and opinion. Or maybe I want to trade that out and say editorial or something like that. And you'll see opinion, my school's failed me, something like that. Another option you can do is do opinion, put in parentheses, or commentary, or editorial, or letter to the editor. Let's see what happens. Now you'll see, because I said use these three words and I want to have at least one of these other terms, they've provided me with some of those results. I hope you found this video on persuasive research helpful. If you have any additional questions, please don't hesitate to contact the library. You can reach the research desk at 509-533-3834, or you can email the librarians at refdesk@sfcc.spokane.edu. This is also how you can contact them to schedule a Zoom appointment. Or if you want to chat with a librarian, it's available 24/7. You can go to http://bit.ly/sfcc libchat.